Remember those lunch boxes? The ones with cartoon characters or rock bands on the front? Every day, you'd open them up hoping for something good. Back in the 1970s, school lunches were weird and wonderful. Long before fancy bento boxes and organic snacks, we had strange sandwich combinations that kids today would never understand. Let's rediscover into 25 forgotten school sandwiches you ate in your childhood. Butter and sugar sandwich. The sweet treat that made you the envy of the cafeteria. White bread, a thick layer of butter, and a heavy sprinkle of white sugar. Sometimes the simple things were the best things. Your mom made it when groceries were running low, but you didn't mind. The sugar would crunch between your teeth while the butter melted on your tongue. By lunchtime, the sugar had usually melted into the butter, creating a sweet glaze that no modern dessert could match. The corners of the sandwich would often have extra sugar that hadn't quite stuck to the butter, creating little sweet deposits that you'd save for last, like nature's sprinkles. There was an art to the butter application. Too cold, and it would tear the bread. Too warm, and the sugar would immediately dissolve. The perfect butter and sugar sandwich had just the right ratio, where you could still see individual sugar crystals sparkling on the surface, promising that perfect sweet crunch. Sometimes you'd open your sandwich at lunch to find the sugar had created beautiful crystalline patterns in the butter, like tiny edible snowflakes that disappeared on your tongue. Potato chip sandwich. The ultimate texture bomb. 2 slices of white bread, mayonnaise, and a handful of potato chips crushed inside. Each bite was a symphony of soft and crunchy. The cool mayo against the salty chips created a flavor that fancy restaurants now try to recreate and call contrast of textures. Back then, it was just what you ate when your mom got creative with the lunch packing. The chips would slowly soften throughout the morning, creating a unique texture by lunchtime that somehow made it even better. There was serious debate among kids about whether to use ridged or plain chips, with the ridged chip enthusiasts claiming their sandwich held up better over time, while the plain chip devotees insisted their version had the superior crunch to softness ratio. Some adventurous souls would add different chip flavors, sour cream and onion or barbecue, fundamentally altering the sandwich's personality. The true connoisseurs knew to add an extra handful of chips right before eating, creating a multi-layered chip experience with both the morning softened chips and fresh crunchy ones. When you bit down, the soft bread would squish while the chips provided that satisfying shatter sound that let everyone know you had the coolest lunch at the table. Oliveloaf sandwich. The sandwich that divided friendships. Processed meat with green olives suspended in it like some kind of science experiment. Slapped between 2 pieces of bread with a smear of mayo, it was either your favorite thing or your worst nightmare. The olives would sometimes pop out and roll across the lunch table, becoming impromptu toys before the lunch monitor caught you playing with food. The salty, tangy meat was an acquired taste that marked you as either weird or sophisticated, depending on who you asked. Oliveloaf created clear social divisions in the cafeteria. The olive lovers would cluster together, comparing how many whole olives they'd scored in their slices, while the olive haters watched in disgusted fascination from across the room. The perfect slice had at least 3 whole olives visible from both sides of the meat. The truly lucky kids might find a slice with an olive that spanned the entire thickness of the loaf, creating a green bullseye that was considered a good luck charm. Some parents would enhance the experience with a slice of American cheese, adding a creamy layer that somehow made the whole creation more palatable to olive skeptics. Cream cheese and jelly sandwich. The poor man's cheesecake. Cream cheese spread thick on white bread with a layer of grape jelly. The sweet and tangy combination was a revelation before fancy flavor combinations were cool. It was like having dessert for lunch, and sometimes the cream cheese would melt just enough to mix with the jelly, creating marble swirls that looked as good as they tasted. The bread would get a little soggy, but that was part of the charm. Opening your lunchbox to find this sandwich meant your parent had taken extra time that morning, as spreading cold cream cheese on soft bread required patience and finesse. If spread too roughly, the bread would tear, resulting in a patchwork sandwich that tasted the same but lost aesthetic points. Different jelly flavors created different experiences. Grape was classic and assertive. Strawberry added a hint of sophistication, and the rare exotic flavors like apricot or blackberry meant your family had recently visited a farmer's market or fancy aunt. The sandwich's appearance would transform throughout the morning. By lunchtime, the jelly would partially absorb into both the cream cheese and bread, creating a graduated color effect that was visually striking. In winter months, the cold classroom would keep the cream cheese firm, while in warmer seasons it would develop a soft, almost frosting-like consistency. Onion sandwich, strong enough to keep friends and enemies away. Just raw onion slices between bread with a bit of butter. It sounds crazy now, but some kids brought these regularly. The cafeteria would know what you had before you even opened your lunchbox. After lunch, your breath could clear a classroom. But the crunch and sharp flavor made it worth the social isolation. Sometimes your eyes would water while eating it, and you'd pretend something sad happened when anyone asked. The type of onion mattered tremendously. Yellow onions were sharp and assertive. Red onions added a hint of sweetness and spectacular color that transformed the bread to a light pink, while white onions provided the cleanest, most pungent bite. The thickness of the slices was crucial. Too thin, and they'd wilt into nothing. Too thick, and the sandwich became impossible to bite through without the entire onion slice pulling out. The butter served multiple purposes. It protected the bread from getting soggy, it tamed the onion's sharpness just slightly, and it added richness to what was otherwise a very aggressive flavor profile. Kids who brought these were immediately classified as having either very old-world parents or extreme confidence. The territory around an onion sandwich eater would gradually clear during lunch period, leaving them with extra elbow room that other kids secretly envied despite the olfactory consequences. Sardine sandwich. The sandwich that cleared a 3-foot radius around you. Tinned sardines mashed with mayonnaise on white bread, sometimes with a squeeze of lemon if your parents were fancy. The smell announced your lunch before you did. Kids would dramatically hold their noses, but secretly, some were jealous of your sophisticated palate. The oily fish would soak into the bread, making the whole thing a soft, savory experience that you either loved or hated. There was an unspoken hierarchy to sardine sandwiches. The basic version had just the fish and mayo. The intermediate version included finely diced onions or celery for texture, and the elite version featured capers or chopped pickles that added briny pops of flavor. The sardine sandwich revealed your family's economic philosophy. Some saw it as a protein-packed, affordable option, while others viewed it as a delicacy worth the premium price of imported fish. The best versions had the sardines mashed just enough to create a spread while leaving some recognizable pieces for textural interest. By mid-morning, the sandwich would have fully matured, with the flavors melding together and the oils penetrating the bread to create a unified culinary experience. Bologna and mustard sandwich, the classic that defined a generation. Perfectly round bologna with yellow mustard on white bread. So simple, yet so perfect. The bologna would always have that weird layer around it that some kids peeled off and others ate without question. The mustard would sometimes soak through the bread by lunchtime, creating yellow spots on the outside that served as a preview of what was inside. You'd often trade half of it for a couple of chips or a cookie. There was a precise science to the mustard application. Some preferred a thin, even layer across the entire surface. Others used the squirt bottle to create artistic patterns, and the truly bold would concentrate the mustard in the center for an intense flavor bomb with milder edges. The bologna itself was a topic of heated debate. Name brand versus generic, thick cut versus thin, beef versus mystery meat. The sandwich invited personalization. Some added a slice of American cheese. Others included a leaf of iceberg lettuce for freshness, and the rebels would substitute spicy brown mustard for yellow, signaling their sophisticated rebellion against sandwich norms. The standard bologna portion was exactly one slice, but on special days, or if you'd been especially good, you might discover 2 slices stacked together, the bologna sandwich equivalent of a double cheeseburger. tomato sandwich, the summer sandwich that celebrated simplicity. Just sliced tomatoes on white bread with a bit of mayo and salt. The tomatoes would release their juice into the bread, creating a delicious sogginess that was somehow better than it sounds. By lunchtime, the bread would be pink-tinged and soft, but that was part of the appeal. The fresh, acidic taste of tomatoes brightened up the cafeteria on hot days. Some kids would add a leaf of lettuce for extra crunch. The tomato sandwich was a seasonal status symbol, appearing only when garden tomatoes were at peak ripeness, signaling your family had either gardening skills or farmers market connections. The tomato variety dramatically altered the experience. Beefsteak tomatoes created substantial slices that dominated the sandwich. Romas offered a drier, more manageable option, and the coveted heirloom varieties brought color and flavor complexity that elevated the humble sandwich to gourmet status. Assembly order was critical. Mayo had to be applied to both bread slices to create a moisture barrier. Then the tomato slices needed to be blotted dry before placement to prevent immediate sogginess. Salt timing was equally important. Applied too early, it would draw out tomato moisture prematurely. Too late, and it wouldn't properly enhance the flavors. Some families added sophisticated touches like freshly ground black pepper, basil leaves from the garden, or a splash of olive oil that signaled European influences. Mayonnaise and pepper sandwich. The minimalist sandwich that raised eyebrows. Just mayonnaise on white bread with a heavy shake of black pepper. Sometimes born of necessity when other sandwich fillings ran out, it had a simple appeal that was hard to explain to anyone who hadn't tried it. The pepper would leave little black specks in the mayo that looked like tiny bugs to the uninitiated. The creamy mayo against the spicy pepper created a flavor profile that was surprisingly complex. The success of this deceptively simple sandwich hinged entirely on execution. The mayo needed to be applied generously enough to hold the pepper, but not so thick as to be cloying. The pepper application was equally crucial, ideally added right after the mayo, so it would partially integrate while still leaving visible speck. The pepper quantity separated the casuals from the enthusiasts. A light dusting created a hint of warmth and visual interest, while a heavy application transformed it into a bold flavor statement that left your tongue pleasantly tingling. There was an unspoken sophistication to enjoying such a minimalist creation. It signaled either severe grocery shortages at home or an unusually developed palate that could appreciate subtle flavors. Some families created variations by using different pepper types, white pepper for a sharper bite without the visible specks, or the rare cayenne pepper for children who already showed signs of becoming future food enthusiasts. Tuna and pickle sandwich. The sandwich that announced itself to the whole cafeteria. Tuna salad with extra pickles mixed in, spread between two slices of white bread. The smell would waft through the air the moment you opened your lunchbox. The tangy pickles cut through the rich tuna, creating a flavor balance that was surprisingly sophisticated. By lunchtime, the bread would be soft from the tuna salad, making each bite a messy but delicious experience. The tuna to mayo ratio in the salad was a defining family characteristic. Some preferred a drier mix that emphasized the fish. Others used more mayo for a creamier, more cohesive spread. The pickle type dramatically altered the sandwich personality. Dill pickles created a savory profile. Sweet pickles added unexpected contrast, and relish provided uniform distribution, but sacrificed the satisfying crunch of pickle chunks. Additional mix-ins separated the basic versions from the gourmet. Finely diced celery added freshness and texture. Minced onion provided aromatic complexity, and a squeeze of lemon juice brightened the entire creation while offsetting the fishiness. The true tuna sandwich connoisseurs knew that structural integrity depended on thoroughly draining the tuna before mixing. Excess liquid meant a soggy sandwich by lunchtime. Lettuce and mayo sandwich. The sandwich for when groceries were running low. Just iceberg lettuce and mayonnaise between two slices of white bread. Surprisingly refreshing, it was like eating a salad you could hold in your hand. The lettuce would wilt a bit by lunchtime, but that just meant it molded better to the bread. The crunch of fresh lettuce against soft bread created a texture contrast that was oddly satisfying. Some kids would add salt and pepper if they were feeling fancy. The lettuce and mayo sandwich required delicate construction. Too much mayo and the lettuce would slip and slide out with each bite. Too little, and the sandwich would be dry and sad. The proper technique involved spreading mayo thinly on both bread slices to create adhesion, then placing the lettuce between. Aficionados knew that tearing the lettuce rather than cutting it created irregular edges that trapped the mayo better and prevented the dreaded lettuce pullout, where the entire contents exit the back of the sandwich on the first bite. The lettuce needed to be thoroughly dried after washing. Lingering water droplets would speed up the bread's deterioration, creating soggy patches by mid-morning. Banana and mayo sandwich. Before anyone worried about sugar content or food combinations, this sweet and tangy sandwich was a lunchroom staple. Sliced bananas arranged on bread with a layer of mayonnaise. The bananas would brown a bit by lunchtime, but that just meant they were sweeter. The creamy mayo balanced the sweet fruit in a way that sounds strange now, but made perfect sense then. Some kids would add a sprinkle of sugar for extra sweetness. The arrangement of banana slices was an art form. Experienced makers would overlap them slightly to ensure complete coverage, while the truly patient would cut them lengthwise to create perfect banana blankets. The ripeness of the banana was critical. Too green, and the sandwich was starchy and firm. Too ripe, and it would dissolve into banana mush by lunchtime. The ideal ripeness had just a few brown speckles on the peel, signaling peak sweetness without sacrificing structural integrity. Some families passed down variations like adding honey instead of sugar or a sprinkle of cinnamon for warmth. The banana mayo sandwich required proper storage. If placed at the bottom of a lunch bag under heavier items, it would emerge as a sad, flattened version of its intended self. Deviled ham sandwich. The mystery meat that came in a little can with a devil on it. Spreadable ham mixed with spices and spread on bread. It had a distinct smell that would announce itself when you opened your lunchbox. Sometimes your mom would fancy it up with chopped celery or pickle relish mixed in. The salty, tangy spread would often leak through the bread, leaving oily spots on your lunch bag that you'd try to hide from the other kids. Deviled ham came with built-in bragging rights. The distinctive small can with its paper wrapper and devil logo was instantly recognizable and somehow made you feel grown up and daring. Opening the can was a ritual itself. Some parents would remove the paper completely. Others would tear just enough to access the contents, and the careful ones would meticulously unwrap and save the paper design. The secret ingredient that elevated a basic deviled ham sandwich was how finely the additions were diced. The best versions had celery, onion, or pickle, chopped so small they were barely visible, but added crucial textural contrast to the smooth spread. Some families treated the deviled ham can as a measuring device. One can should make exactly 2 sandwiches, creating portion disputes among siblings if someone got more than their fair share. Egg salad sandwich. The sandwich that smelled like someone had left eggs in their locker for a week. Chopped hard-boiled eggs mixed with mayo, mustard, and maybe some relish. You'd open your lunchbox, and the whole table would know what you had, but the creamy, protein-packed filling was worth the social stigma. By lunchtime, the bread would be soft, and the filling would squish out the sides when you took a bite. Yellow crumbs would fall onto your lap, leaving evidence of your lunch choice for the rest of the day. The egg salad sandwich was also a clear indicator of recent holidays. A week after Easter virtually guaranteed an epidemic of egg salad sandwiches as families repurposed their decorated eggs. The chop size of the eggs created distinct sandwich personalities. Roughly chopped created a chunky, rustic sandwich with visible white and yolk pieces, while finely mashed versions were smoother and more homogeneous. The addition of paprika was the ultimate status symbol, adding both color and a subtle smoky flavor that elevated the entire creation. Temperature was this sandwich's enemy. Kept too warm, it would develop an intensified aroma that could clear neighboring lunch tables. Kept too cold, the filling would firm up and feel dense. Spam and cheese sandwich. The sandwich that could survive a nuclear apocalypse. Sliced Spam with a piece of American cheese on white bread, sometimes with mustard if you were lucky. The salty meat and creamy cheese were a match made in processed food heaven. The Spam would be cut into perfect rectangles that never quite fit the bread right, leaving corners of bread with nothing but cheese. Some kids would get fancy versions with fried Spam that their parents had cooked the night before. The thickness of the Spam slice was a direct reflection of your parents' generosity or budgeting philosophy. Thin slices might stretch a can across multiple sandwiches in days, while thick slices signaled abundance or special occasions. The classic version used cold Spam straight from the can, but the elite variation featured Spam that had been lightly fried, creating caramelized edges and enhanced flavor, though this required evening preparation and morning assembly. The Spam and cheese sandwich maintained structural integrity better than most lunch options, rarely suffering from squishing or sogginess, even when placed at the bottom of a heavy lunch bag. Cutting technique mattered. Cutting diagonally created two triangles with interesting Spam exposure patterns, while a straight vertical cut resulted in more traditional rectangles. Bologna sandwich. The Bologna sandwich stands as perhaps America's most iconic budget meal. Thin slices of this processed meat on white bread with a smear of yellow mustard fed countless workers and school children throughout the 20th century. During the Great Depression, Bologna became known as poor man's steak, affordable when real beef was out of reach for many families. A single slice could stretch across bread to create the illusion of abundance. The best versions featured slightly fried bologna with its edges curled up from the heat, creating a perfect pocket for mustard and mayonnaise. What made this sandwich special wasn't fancy ingredients, but small touches. Some families would score the edges to prevent curling, others would fry it until crisp. The Bologna sandwich wasn't just food, it was reliable comfort during uncertain times, when knowing lunch would be there tomorrow mattered more than culinary excitement.
Sloppy Joe. Another notable sandwich from that era is the Sloppy Joe, which consists of ground beef, onions, tomato sauce or ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, and other seasonings served on a hamburger bun. The origins of the Sloppy Joe are debated, with some attributing it to a bar owner in Havana, Cuba in 1917, while others trace it back to Sioux City, Iowa in the 1930s. By the 1940s, references to Sloppy Joes as sandwiches became common in the United States. These sandwiches reflect the culinary trends of their times, offering a glimpse into the flavors and preferences that shaped mid-20th century American cuisine.
Bread and butter sandwich. Nothing speaks to lean times like the bread and butter sandwich. 2 slices of bread, a layer of butter, and nothing else. This wasn't just a sandwich. It was a statement about making do with almost nothing. In the depths of economic hardship, families would sometimes serve this as a complete meal. The trick to elevating this simplest of sandwiches was in the details. Butter softened to spread perfectly without tearing the bread, a sprinkle of salt to enhance flavor, or bread toasted just enough to melt the butter partially. Children during wartime rationing often received these for school lunches. Some parents would cut them into special shapes or press decorative patterns into the butter to make this basic meal feel special. The bread and butter sandwich teaches us that dignity can be found even in the simplest foods when prepared with care. Cold meatloaf sandwiches. The working class bento box, requiring no heating, no hassle, just grab and go. These sandwiches represented second-day culinary victory, giving yesterday's dinner another opportunity for greatness. The simple formula, cold meatloaf slab, yellow mustard squeeze, and 2 pieces of soft white bread, delivered all the comfort of a warm meal without requiring a stove. Perfectly portable for job sites, kitchen tables, or lunch pails. Children adored them. Adults relied on them, and nobody complained because they consistently satisfied. The refrigerated meat's fat firmed pleasingly, seasonings settled and intensified overnight, while mustard provided sharp counterpoint to the rich loaf. Some enthusiasts added pickles for brightness, others swore by onion slices for pungent crunch. But the fundamental components remained consistent, humble, dependable, somehow always tastier the following day. The sandwich represented pragmatic creativity, transforming leftovers into something equally desirable as the original meal. The contrast between room-temperature bread and cool, dense meatloaf created textural interest that elevated this simple sandwich to lunchtime favorite that workers anticipated eagerly. Lard sandwich. Perhaps the most humble of all poor man's sandwiches, the lard sandwich represents bare-bones sustenance. A spread of rendered animal fat on bread provided calories when nothing else was available. Appalachian families and rural poor relied on this simple combination for quick energy. Sometimes enhanced with a sprinkle of salt or sugar depending on whether a savory or sweet meal was desired, lard sandwiches were filling if not nutritionally complete. Those with access to home-rendered lard claimed superior flavor to store-bought varieties. Some families added a thin scraping of molasses on special occasions. The sandwich's high caloric density made it popular among physical laborers who needed substantial energy to make it through demanding workdays.
Scrapple. Scrapple is a dish born out of necessity and ingenuity during the Depression. This pork-based mush, made from leftover bits of meat and cornmeal, was a clever way to ensure that no part of a costly animal went to waste. The process was simple yet creative, simmering pork scraps with spices, then mixing the liquid with cornmeal, and allowing it to set into a firm loaf. Once cooled, scrapple was sliced and fried until the exterior became crisp while the inside remained soft and savory. It was often served as a hearty breakfast, a reminder that even the simplest ingredients, when combined with skill and resourcefulness, could yield a satisfying meal. Families took pride in this dish, which not only maximized their food supply, but also offered a unique taste that was both rich and comforting. Today, scrapple has become a regional delicacy in parts of America, celebrated for its deep connection to the past. Modern chefs may reinvent the dish with gourmet twists, but its roots remain in the creative kitchens of the Depression. Every slice of scrapple is a tribute to a time when nothing was wasted and every morsel was cherished, a culinary reminder of how necessity can breed innovation and flavor.
Cucumber sandwich. Though later associated with fancy afternoon tea, the cucumber sandwich began as humble fare. Thin sliced cucumbers between bread provided hydration and refreshment to workers in hot weather when meat was unaffordable. Depression-era families made these with garden cucumbers in summer months, adding thin spread of butter and salt. The cool crispness offered refreshment during hot days, particularly for farm workers. Some enhanced them with dill or vinegar when available. Unlike many poor man's sandwiches that provided calories, cucumber sandwiches offered psychological refreshment, the feeling of eating something fresh and green when most meals were heavy and starchy. They represent how even in poverty, people found ways to create moments of delight.
Fried Spam sandwich. During the challenging times of World War II, when traditional protein sources were scarce, the fried Spam sandwich emerged as a staple in American households. Introduced in 1937, Spam was an affordable and convenient meat option that didn't require refrigeration, making it ideal for families during the war years. A Cal Spam sandwich consisted of grilled Spam slices paired with cheese, mustard, or mayonnaise, all nestled between toasted bread, a simple yet satisfying meal that resonated with the hardworking individuals of that era. As tar concluded and fresh meats became more accessible, the popularity of the Spam sandwich waned. Howevet's legacy endures, with many still enjoying variations of this retro sandwich today.
Peanut butter and pickle sandwich. This unusual pairing of creamy peanut butter with tangy, crunchy pickles created a surprisingly balanced flavor combination that stretched modest ingredients. Depression-era cooks discovered that the sharp acidity of pickles cut through the richness of peanut butter perfectly. Dill pickles were most commonly used, though sweet pickles appeared in regions where they were home-canned. The contrast of textures, smooth peanut butter against crisp pickle, added interest to an otherwise monotonous diet. This sandwich remained popular through the 1950s, particularly in rural areas where both ingredients were readily available through home canning and affordable staples. Depression-era children often continued enjoying these sandwiches into adulthood, the flavors connecting them to childhood even after their circumstances improved.
Mock chicken sandwich. Another inventive creation from the Great Depression era was the mock chicken sandwich. During these economically challenging times when meats like chicken were considered extras, resourceful individuals crafted this sandwich using readily available ingredients. The filling comprised chopped tomatoes, a beaten egg, grated cheese, onion, herbs, butter, and seasonings. This mixture was cooked and then placed ween sandwich buns, offering a flavorful and satisfying alternative to actual chicken. Despite its creativity and taste, once real chicken became affordable again, the mock chicken sandwich became ink sandwich, a nostalgic reminder of America's golden age of culinary ingenuity.
Tuna salad sandwich. When canned tuna became widely available in the early 20th century, it revolutionized budget eating. Mixed with mayonnaise and perhaps finely chopped celery or onion, tuna salad stretched a small amount of protein across multiple sandwiches. During World War II, with meat rationing in effect, tuna salad sandwiches became patriotic alternatives to beef. Navy wives particularly embraced these sandwiches, adding relish or hard-boiled eggs when available to extend the filling further. Churches and community gatherings often featured these sandwiches since they could feed many for little cost. The tuna salad sandwich represents community resilience, how shared knowledge about stretching ingredients helped neighborhoods weather hard times together.
Peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich. In the 1920s, the peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich emerged as a unique culinary creation in American households. A popular narrative suggests that in 1929, during a streetcar workers' strike, this sandwich was devised as an affordable and nutritious meal option. Throughout the subsequent decades, particularly during the Great Depression, its popularity soared. Parents frequently prepared this sandwich for their children, serving it at breakfast and packing it for school lunches. Its widespread appeal was due to its affordability, simplicity in preparation, and surprisingly pleasant taste. The creamy sweetness of peanut butter paired harmoniously with the tangy richness of mayonnaise, creating a flavor profile that delighted many. However, as American palates evolved and preferences shifted towards more conventional flavors, the peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich gradually faded from the culinary spotlight.
Egg and sardine sandwich. When protein was scarce but essential for physical labor, the egg and sardine sandwich delivered maximum nutrition from minimal ingredients. Canned sardines mashed with hard-boiled eggs and a touch of vinegar created a filling rich in protein and omega-3 fatty acids. Immigrant communities particularly embraced this combination, drawing on European traditions of fish preservation. The sandwich traveled well in lunch pails for factory workers and miners, providing sustained energy through long shifts. Some versions added finely chopped onion or pickles when available. The egg and sardine sandwich stands as testimony to nutritional wisdom in poverty. How people instinctively combined complementary proteins even before nutritional science confirmed the practice's value.
Cheese and Marmite sandwich. The cheese and Marmite sandwich is a boldly British creation that marries the creamy, mellow character of cheese with the uniquely savory, umami intensity of Marmite. Typically assembled on a slice of hearty wholemeal or even crustless white bread, the spread of Marmite lends an assertive, salty tang that cuts through the smooth, melting cheese. Although its flavor profile can be an acquired taste, this sandwich has developed a dedicated following in the United Kingdom, where it remains a nostalgic staple reminiscent of traditional school lunches and classic tea time snacks.
Bacon and peanut butter sandwich. When a single strip of bacon needed to add flavor to an entire meal, the bacon and peanut butter sandwich was born. Often, one strip would be cooked crisp, crumbled, and sprinkled throughout peanut butter to distribute smoky flavor throughout. During meat rationing, this combination allowed families to enjoy bacon flavor while stretching minimal meat allowance. The salt and smoke of bacon perfectly complemented peanut butter's richness, creating satisfaction beyond their humble ingredients. Some families added honey or molasses when available for special occasions. This sandwich demonstrates how even the smallest luxury ingredient, a single bacon strip, could transform an ordinary meal into something memorable when used creatively.
Chicken liver sandwich. Similarly, the chicken liver sandwich was a favored delicacy in the 1950s. While it may not hold the same widespread popularity today, it remains a cherished item in select establishments across the country. Crafting this sandwich requires a bit more effort compared to others from that era, but for those willing to invest the time, it offers a rich and satisfying experience. The preparation involves marinating chicken livers in a mixture of salt, garlic, and lemon juice for several hours. After marination, the livers are cooked until tender, then sliced into small pieces. These are layered on toasted whole wheat bread spread with mayonnaise, accompanied by crisp iceberg lettuce and fresh tomato slices. Despite its delectable taste, the chicken liver sandwich saw a decline in popularity due to its longer preparation time and a growing preference for simpler flavors. Nevertheless, it still holds a special place at certain dinner tables, offering a nostalgic taste of yesteryear.
Mayonnaise and onion sandwich. Sharp raw onion tamed by creamy mayonnaise created a sandwich that delivered bold flavor when other ingredients weren't available. Thinly sliced onions were sometimes soaked briefly in water to reduce their bite before being layered with mayo between bread slices. Factory workers favored this inexpensive filling option that provided enough energy to sustain physical labor. The sandwich became particularly associated with Southern textile mill employees and Midwestern manufacturing workers. Some added a sprinkle of black pepper or paprika when available. The mayonnaise and onion sandwich represents working-class pragmatism, functional food that prioritized sustenance and affordability over culinary trends.
Creamed corn sandwich. This lunchtime classic was easy to make. It consisted of cream-style sweet corn kernels spread on buttered bread, topped with cheese, veggies, and herbs of your choice. After a quick press in a panini maker, lunch was ready. This retro sandwich was perfect for a long school day or a stressful day at work, especially for those living the busy lifestyles of the past. However, as tastes shifted over the decades, creamed corn sandwiches faded into history. Today, it's still a favorite among those with old-school preferences and is a semi-popular choice for people who prefer a vegetarian diet, as long as they're making it at home. Only a fraction of restaurants still have this lunchtime delight on the menu. If you're looking for a low-calorie sandwich that's also incredibly tasty, there are probably better options, but how many of them are this easy to make? If you love some good cheese on your food and you're trying to explore healthier snack options, you'll love the heavy lifter coming up next.
These forgotten sandwiches tell America's hidden food history, how ordinary people weathered extraordinary hardship with creativity and dignity. They remind us that good food isn't always about exotic ingredients or elaborate preparations. Sometimes it's about making the most of what you have, finding comfort in simplicity, and sharing what little is available with those you love. Next time your grocery budget feels tight, instead of reaching for expensive ingredients, consider these forgotten classics. You might discover that between two slices of bread lies not just a meal, but a connection to the quiet heroism of everyday survival that defined much of American food history.